Hello, it's been a while, but I've got another video today about the duo Jockstrap, so enjoy. Experimental duo Jockstrap is made up of Georgia Ellery, who writes lyrics and song structures, and Taylor Skye, who produces and mixes. The duo work with a large range of contrasting genres. You might encounter a string quartet and a trap beat all within the one project, and this mixing of genres, or genre hybridity, is a large characteristic of their musical language. Embracing the contrasts between genres, Jockstrap frequently work with electronic attributes, including sampling, pitching audio up and down, and incorporating glitches and short clips. By creating such exaggerated levels of contrast between genre and timbre, the duo to me demonstrate a self-awareness that they are working with recordings, sort of like breaking an audio fourth wall, which is what I will be focusing on in this video. On a wider level, I argue that these exaggerated techniques reflect current mainstream means of listening to music and consuming content. Emphasising contrast and fracturing, Jockstrap's discography shares similarities with the experience of streaming, which allows users to skip rapidly through songs and to switch between genres and albums on command. To explore this connection, in this video I will be discussing the duo's first EP, Love is the Key to the City, and its respective remix EP, Lost My Key in Club. Genre hybridity is a key musical approach of Jockstrap, and the contrast which is constructed through this technique shares similarities with experiences of streaming and internet surfing. When the duo combine aspects of neoclassicism, field recording, dubstep, and video game music, the music often embraces quite drastic genre contrasts, which coincide or suddenly shift from one to another, kind of like a collage of different genres rather than a unified whole. Similar fractured experiences can be recreated through streaming, the primary means for artists and labels to distribute music currently. The convenience and essentially infinite amount of music available via streaming offers much more choice than would have been the case previously. Pre-recording technology, going to a concert would mean listening through a whole work, and then later vinyl involved listening to projects back to back, usually only at home with access to a record player. Walkmans and CD recordings brought portability, but still only contained one project or body of tracks. In comparison, streaming offers many more possibilities and choices for the user. For myself, there are definitely times where I can't decide what music to listen to, so I spend a few minutes flicking from playlist to album, back to playlist, hit shuffle, skip through songs, skip back, listen for a bit, skip forward, and so on. Similarly, it's easy to flick from tab to tab, finding out about infinite numbers of topics, or to skip and scroll from page to page of Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and so on, as opposed to focusing on one full book or one full film or an album in full. To me, Jockstrap embrace this sort of chaos, bringing together different genres and sounds. This is apparent across the overall track listing of Love is the Key to the City. The spreadsheet on screen displays timbral aspects of the EP, categorised by genre. Accordingly, the EP is framed by classical aspects marked in green, opening and closing with neoclassical string passages in tracks Wet and Outro. Comparatively, the inner tracks incorporate prominently digital aspects marked in blue, alongside classical and pop aspects. The remix EP, Lost My Key in the Club, more or less remains in the realm of dance or electronic music, but comparing the two EPs, Skye places each song within a new genre context, showcasing contrast at the EP level. The song Joy illustrates Jockstrap's use of genre hybridity at the song level. Ellery's neoclassical influences are evident in the song's opening luscious and sustained string texture, which accompanies her vocal octatonic melody. As well, the music is given more space to breathe through its use of rubato. About halfway through, there is a sudden shift which throws the neoclassical elements up the left. We're introduced to a strict drum beat, a high-pitched synth which takes over from Ellery's octatonic melody, and repeated vocals pitched artificially high. From here, Ellery's vocals are manipulated in various ways, heavily echoed, pitched higher and lower, and distorted. The neoclassical octatonic melody is now placed within a new electronic context. The following remix version of Joy takes the octatonic melody and places it within an Afrobeat context, running even further with the initial neoclassical idea by incorporating a heavily sped up samba sample and a lot of chopped samples of Ellery's vocals. On a wider level, Jockstrap's unconventional combination of classical with electronic to me is reflective of the internet's democratization of arts and genres. Often, music which traditionally has been seen as high art is referenced on the internet with a layer of irony. Take, for example, this TikTok with DJ Mandy and underscores. The clashing transition from underscore's song Music to the Boccherini Minuet acknowledges previous perceptions of classical music as high art, but with an added layer of satire, humour which is not usually associated with prominent formal perceptions of classical music. This isn't necessarily a conscious critique from DJ Mandy and underscores, but it at least subverts the high art perceptions of classical music, not through total rejection, but through recontextualization of classical music within short-form content and a DJ set. Similarly, Jockstrap pieced together strands from neoclassicism and electronic music, allowing them to be at home within the same musical context without deliberately unifying them. Jockstrap offers evaluations of our perceptions of musical conventions, even if not conscious. We don't usually expect to hear video game music and neoclassicism within the same project. Why? Emphasising the contrast between genres helps to make us question our stylistic expectations rather than fulfilling them. Another way that Jockstrap emphasises contrast is through their song structures. Typically, pop music involves preemptive sections which indicate builds and releases in energy. For example, a pre-chorus indicates the chorus through builds and attributes such as dynamics, texture, and harmonic movement. Instead of doing this, Jockstrap often incorporate new material with little or no particular preemption, and a good example of this is in the unexpected rap section of the I Want Another Affair remix. The original song features just verse and chorus sections and overall remains quite static in terms of energy. Combining the timbres of video game music and a bossa nova rhythm, there are no highly climactic points.
Let's go on you, orange woman. Again, this time in the bedroom.
In comparison, the Taylor Sky remix does introduce more builds and energy, aligning with aspects of music theorist Brad Osborn's EDM form, but without highly climactic sections. EDM form typically involves a verse, a tension-building riser, and a massive climactic drop, the moment of ecstatic dancing to a 4 on the floor house beat. Rather than taking on this fully goal-oriented approach, the Another Affair remix employs the verse and the tension-building riser through the dropout in drums and percussive piano chords, but it does not include the climactic drop. Following the first verse and riser, the climactic drop is cut altogether by starting the beginning of another EDM form through a pre-verse section, which is marked by sawtooth, NES-style chords that constructed the song's introductory material. More unexpectedly, the second verse and riser leads to a rap which did not feature at all in the original song.
Damn, man, that's the hardest thing I ever heard.
The stuck and I'm soaking in its seasoning. And I'm clocking the crock pot broth for when to throw those beans in.
Sky mentions this in an interview. I'd built the whole track and then just thought, you know what, I'm gonna be crazy, and added this rap section at the end. In this sense, Jockstrap's song structures do involve builds and tension, but often they lead to new material or an anticlimactic kind of drop in tension, as opposed to a conventional climax. Although that being said, the band do not exclude climaxes in their music altogether, for example in the song 50/50 from their album I Love You Jennifer B. But anyway, their music usually is organised to exclude massive beat drops or climaxes, and this allows them to emphasise contrast and fracturing, incorporating sudden and unexpected changes in material rather than employing preemptive sections. This was also the case in the song Joy, with the sudden shift from neoclassicism to electronic music. Moving on, Jockstrap's music also brings a self-aware acknowledgement of itself as a recording. There are several techniques which Sky employs which indicate the recordings as digitally manipulated, subverting the notion of a recording as a preservation of a single live performance. Even in the classically influenced opener of Love is the Key, Wet presents an allosonic hypertext of neoclassicism by incorporating digital aspects. Essentially, you can definitely see the classical influence in the string quartet and flute melodies, but there are subtler aspects that indicate the track as composed in the current internet age. I've just realised that I never explained what hypertext or allosonic mean. So a hypertext is a term coined by literary theorist Genette, which involves any text B, so for example a song, referring to an earlier text A, the hypertext, and this could be a song or an earlier style of music. Allosonic quotation is a term from musicologist Lacasse, and it refers specifically to hypertexts which imitate a given style of music, as opposed to taking direct samples, which would be an autosonic quotation. To begin with, the opening audio implies that Ellery is singing in the shower, since you can hear her singing quietly to a background of shower sounds, whilst a string melody slowly filters in. It's as if her singing is muffled because of this shower. But given that the shower sounds later are removed in place of a much clearer presentation of the strings, it's obvious that the initial audio is a deliberate choice and not the result of poor recording quality. These acoustic sounds function similarly to a field recording or a recording of natural sounds such as the blowing of trees in the wind. To pull on a debate which arose during the 1970s about authorship of field recordings, it's important to acknowledge that field recordings are not neutral documents of soundscapes. This debate is discussed by musicians Anderson and Rennie, who assert the presence of the author in a field recording. So to expand, the recordist chooses what to record, when to record it, where to place their microphone, how long to record for, and so on. Therefore, the recordist has a significant amount of control over the recording. Acknowledging the author, we are reminded that we are listening to a constructed recording and not an exact replica of a given environment. So for Jockstrap, playing with different timbral presentations of their compositions, in this case an unclear shower presentation and then a clear one, allows the duo to showcase the technology that they have access to. Field recordings are not the only way that Jockstrap's music demonstrates a self-awareness of itself as a recording. Sky's use of digital manipulation has similar effects, such as through rewinding, pitching audio up and down, incorporating total gaps in audio, and mechanically repeating samples. For example, in Wet, before the strings break into their clear presentation, there is a very short glitch, something that must have been done digitally. This is displayed on screen through a spectrogram. So frequency is marked on the y-axis and time on the x-axis, and amplitude is marked based on how intense the colour is. So as you can see, the orange appears more chaotic during the glitch before the strings articulate a clearer melody, which can be seen in the straight horizontal lines. Again, this glitch is not a random mishap, but is intentionally placed to transition from unclear shower sounds to clear string quartet. Charlotte is another good example of Jockstrap's digital manipulation. If you were to strip away the timbres, so the industrial quality to the song's sound, and any additional manipulations to them, you would basically be left with a soul song. It's a slowed 6/8 track with a descending chord progression, which are both reminiscent of a flowing soul ballad. However, the song's industrial-like timbre constructs an unusually artificial sound, given that soul is usually associated with authenticity. To expand, on screen is a small section of Charlotte in spectrogram form, displaying the timbral organisation of the song, which replicates processes of recording. Initially, Ellery's vocals are high-pitched, displayed in the squiggly lines, although pitch is not apparent from the spectrogram itself. Then, we meet two segments of total silence as evidenced by the total darkness. This is rare. With an acoustic recording, there is at least some kind of resonance left over from any previous musical content, such as a guitar chord. But here, Jockstrap have used digital software to insert segments of total silence post-recording of vocals and instrumentation. This is similarly acknowledged in the music video, which visualises the silence with a totally black screen. In the next section of audio, Ellery's returning vocals feature a digitally increased amount of resonance, as displayed in the near identical repeated vocal lines.
A quiet hue of gold and fun.
This gives a metallic and mechanical quality, since in practice it would be difficult for a singer to accurately repeat these short vocal fragments. In sum, these qualities present soul conventions within a digital context. The post-recording manipulations are very apparent and are embraced. This is a song which embraces its technological contexts. So overall, Jockstrap's musical language reflects wider trends in how we currently interact with music and the internet through streaming and social media. In their first EP and its remixed version, you can find aspects of video game music, neoclassicism, soul, bossa nova, and electronic music all within the same project. The duo demonstrates techniques which can be seen in more recent and upcoming genres, particularly hyperpop, which embrace technology and exhibit a self-awareness of online culture. For Jockstrap specifically, this is done through the duo's self-referring remixes and genre hybridity, both of which present new compositional ideas by explicitly referring to older styles and works. Another key technique is in Sky's production, which incorporates very obvious digital manipulations, including through different timbral presentations of songs and through pitching audio up and down, chopping samples up, and using large amounts of distortion. Through these techniques, the duo construct a unique and fragmented discography, which to me reflects an equally fragmented internet culture. Thank you for watching!